Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chandrottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Diri Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 1, Curse upon the Yadu dynasty, text number 8 onwards. Shri Raja Vacha Brahmanyanam Vadanyanam Nityam Vridhopasevinam Viprashapa Katham Abhuda Vrishninam Krishna Chetasam. King Parikshit inquired, how could the Brahmins curse the Vrishnis, who were always respectful to the Brahmins, charitable and inclined to serve senior and exalted personalities, and whose minds were always fully absorbed in the thoughts of Lord Krishna? So King Parikshit is, because Shukdev Goswami told that the Brahmins cursed the Vrishnis, and the Vrishni dynasty was completely finished. Now King Parikshit, how can the Brahmins curse the Vrishnis? Vrishnis, family members of Krishna, always charitably, serviceably disposed. How could they curse him? Purport. Brahmins generally become angry at persons who disrespect the Brahminical class, who are uncharitable and who decline to serve senior, respectable personalities. The Vrishnis, however, were not like that, and thus they described here by King Parikshit as Brahmanyana, or sincere followers of Brahminical culture. Further, even if the Brahmins became angry, why would they curse members of Krishna's own family? Since the Brahmins were well learned, they must have known that it is offensive to oppose personal associates of the Supreme Lord. The Yadu dynasty is specifically described here as Vrishninam and Krishna Chetasam. In other words, they were Lord Krishna's own men, and they were always absorbed in thinking of Krishna. They were, even if somehow or other the Brahmins had cursed them, how could that curse have any effect? These are the questions of Maharaj Parikshit. So although the Vrishnis are described in this verse as Krishna Chetasam, always absorbed in thinking of Krishna, it is clearly indicated that Krishna desired that the Brahmins become angry and curse the Yadu dynasty. The Supreme Lord desired to remove his personal dynasty from the earth, and therefore uncustomary offensive behavior was exhibited by the young boys of Krishna's own family members. It is to be understood from this incident that when a man displays envy and ridicule of devotees of Vishnu, his Brahmanyata or high spiritual qualifications, along with his reverence for Shri Krishna, are all destroyed. Contempt and ridicule directed toward respectable persons and true Brahmins vanquish all good qualities. If there is a break in etiquette towards his devotees, the Supreme Lord will become ill-disposed, even to his own relatives and friends, and thus arrange to destroy those who oppose his devotees. If foolish persons in the guise of members of Krishna's personal family express enmity towards Vaishnavas, such offenders cannot properly be called offspring of Lord Krishna's dynasty. That's a supreme equality of the personality of Godhead. So there are many, many lessons from this incident. That even if one is member of Krishna's personal family, if he commits an offense against the Brahmins or other great saintly spiritual people, they will still have to go through the curse or they have to bear the offenses, or they have to get the reactions of those offenses. Krishna does not forgive those. And also at the same time, Krishna wanted his dynasty to be destroyed. And as we have studied earlier, that nobody could destroy, and not even the whole universe, anybody was powerful enough to destroy the Yadu dynasty or defeat Yadu army. And so Krishna had to make this arrangement. So he made the arrangement very, very beautifully. Let's see what he said, what he did. So, but Parikshit Maharaj is further asking, Yan nimitta savaishapu yadrisho dvijya sattama katham ekatmanam veda etat sarvam vadasva me. King Parikshit continued inquiring, what was the motive for this curse? What did it consist of? O purest of the twice born, how could such a disagreement have arisen among the Yadus who all shared the same goal of life? Please tell me all these things. So Ekatmana means that the Yadus all shared the same opinion, namely that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was the goal of their life. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj could not see any obvious reason for such a destructive quarrel among the members of the Yadu dynasty, and he was anxious to know the actual cause. It means he wanted to know why did Yadu dynasty, nobody could kill them, so they just fought with each other and killed each other. How is it possible? Shri Badrayana Ruvacha Vibhrad Vapu Sakala Sundar Sannivesham Karamacharan Bhuvi Sumangalam Apta Kamaha Asthaya Dhamaramana Udar Kirtihi Samhartum Achat Kulam Sthiti Kritya Sheshaha. Shukdev Goswami said, the Lord who bore his body as amalgamation of everything beautiful dutifully executed the most auspicious activities while on the earth, although he was, in fact, without any endeavor, already satisfied in all desires. Residing in his abode and enjoying life, the Lord, whose glorification is in itself magnanimous, now wanted to annihilate his dynasty, as there still remained some small part of his duty to be carried out. So this verse answers Parikshit Maharaj's question as to how the powerful member of the Yadu dynasty could be cursed by the Brahmins and thus destroy themselves in a fratricidal war. By the word Samhartum Mechata Kulam, it is clearly stated that Lord Krishna himself desired to withdraw his dynasty and therefore engaged the Brahmins as his agent. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks here that Krishna had clearly demonstrated the insurpassable beauty and strength of his personal form, pastimes, and pleasures to all the residents of the earth. Thus, his incarnation to kill the demons, save the devotees, and re-establish religious principles had been completely successful. When Lord Krishna noticed that his mission was now complete, everything having been done perfectly, he desired to return to his transcendental abode along with the Vrishnis. Thus the Lord personally arranged for the Yadu dynasty to be cursed by the Brahmins. So it was all happening by the mercy of Krishna. According to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Aptakama means that Krishna is always self-satisfied, and yet in order to execute his transcendental pastimes, he arranged to destroy his own dynasty for three specific reasons, namely, to re-establish in the heavenly planets those demigods who had taken birth among the Yadus to assist him, to re-establish his planetary Vishnu expansions in their abodes, such as Vaikuntha, Shvetadeep, and Badrikashram, and to remove himself from the vision of the material world, along with his eternal associates. And also, of course, it's not mentioned here, till Krishna was there personally, Kali Yuga couldn't have entered. But it was time for Kali Yuga to start. So Krishna also had to leave, so that all the cycles go on properly. In this connection, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has made several important remarks about the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. He states that many so-called religious persons, have fallen down by committing the second offense against chanting the holy name, namely Vishnu Sarveshwar Shet Tad Itara Samadhi, considering another living entity to be equal to Lord Vishnu, who is the Lord of Lords. One who is captured by the impersonal tendency of Mayavad philosophy falsely thinks that the external material energy of the Lord is equal to his internal spiritual potency. In this way, one equates ordinary living entities with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, taking Krishna to be another aspect of Maya. This is a most unfortunate misconception, for it spoils one's opportunity to understand God as he actually is. So that was also necessary for the destruction of the Yadu dynasty, so that people won't start equating Krishna with the members of the Yadu dynasty. That, oh, they're in the same family, so they are as good as Krishna. No, nobody is equal to Krishna. And the second offense that is mentioned here, second offense against chanting of the holy name, is to consider the name of demigods as a Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva to be equal to or independent of names of Lord Vishnu. So even Brahmaji or Shivaji is not equal to or independent of Krishna. But we start thinking that way. Persons inclined toward this illusory conception of life would undoubtedly consider the members of the Yadu dynasty equal in all respects to Krishna and worship the future descendants of Krishna's family as being equal to Krishna himself. Thus, a continued presence of the Yadu dynasty on the earth would certainly constitute a great impediment on the path of spiritual understanding and a great burden on the earth. To counteract the danger to the world from the offense of equating Vishnu with the family of Vishnu, the Lord decided to crush the Yadu family and not just destroy them like that. He really crushed them. And the way they killed each other, the further generations, not of Yadu dynasty or further generation of people, they would not think highly of them. They got drunk and they killed each other. The Supreme Lord Shri Krishna is always affectionate to his devotees, but whenever the familial descendants of Lord Krishna become inimical or indifferent to him, not loving his pure devotees or making friendship with all his servants, such so-called family members of the Lord become impediments to his will. There is a tangible danger that ignorant living beings will worship such inimical persons, revering them as close associates of Krishna. For example, to consider Kansa the maternal uncle of Krishna and therefore a faithful servant of Krishna would be a completely erroneous conclusion. It's a nice example. Kansa, he was Krishna's uncle, but not a devotee of Krishna, not a faithful servant of Krishna. He was there to play his part for us to learn the lessons from, and but he did not serve Krishna in a favorable way. So, not a good example for us to follow. By such a misconception, evil men who oppose the Lord may be accepted as his intimate associates. And personal inimical to Krishna may be thought of as his surrendered dependents appearing in his own family. And in fact, Shishupal, Dantavakra, they were cousins of Krishna. Duryodhana was a relative of Krishna. Duryodhana's daughter was married to Krishna's son. But still, they were not devotees. The purpose of the destruction of the Yadu dynasty was to eradicate the false logic of the Mayavadis, who desire to see everything as one in all respects, and who therefore improperly reason that the enemies of Krishna's devotees can be his intimate family members. So, the enemies of Krishna's devotees should not be given all the respect. That's for sure. Karmani punya nivahani sumangalani gaya jagat kali mala paharani kritva kalatmana nivasata yadudeva gehe pindarkam samgaman munayo nisrishtaha Vishwamitro asitah kanmo durvasa bhrigu rangiraha kashipo vama devo atrher Vashishto Narad Adaya. Wow. The sages Vishwamitra, Asit, Kanva, Durvasa, Bhrigu, Angira, Kashyap, Vamadev, Atri, and Vashishta, along with Narad and others, once performed fruitive rituals that award abundant pious results, bring great happiness, and take away the sins of Kali Yuga for the whole world by merely being recounted. The sages duly executed these rituals in the home of the chief of the Yadus, Vasudeva, the father of Lord Krishna. After Lord Krishna, who was staying in Vasudeva's house as time personified, respectfully sent the sages off at the conclusion of the ceremonies, they went to the holy place called Pindarak. In this verse, Shukdev Goswami begins to narrate the story of the Brahminical curse that arose against the Yadu dynasty by the Lord's desire. According to Srila Swami, certain religious rituals such as the Ashwamedh Yajna generate pious reactions. On the other hand, activities such as caring for one's children give immediate pleasure in the present only, whereas rituals performed as atonement take away sinful reactions. But the religious activities mentioned in verse 11, which are indicated by the words Karmani Punya Nivahani, were pious in all respects. They produced abundant pious results and great joy, and were so potent that merely glorifying these rituals relieves one from all the sinful reactions of Kali Yuga. The sages called to Vasudeva's house to perform such auspicious religious activities were satisfied with proper gifts and then sent by Krishna to Pindarak, a nearby holy place situated about 2 miles from the Arabian Sea on the coast of Gujarat. Its current name is still Pindarak. Significantly, Lord Krishna is mentioned here as Kalatmana, the form of time or the super soul. In 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of God reveals himself to Arjuna as time personified. He said, Kalosmi, I'm time, and Lokakshakrit, I'm here to destroy everybody. Appearing on the battlefield of Kurukshetra to destroy all the kings and armies who constitute a burden to the earth. So similarly, Kalatmana Nivasata Yadudeva Gehe, Krishna was staying at the home of his father Vasudeva as time personified, thus indicating that the time was approaching for the destruction of his own dynasty according to his desire. So if Krishna can destroy his own dynasty, were all wonderful, great devotees of Krishna. They were always thinking of Krishna, always serving Krishna. So how can we assume that Krishna would not destroy even the little bitty demons or devils we see these days? When the time comes, he'll destroy everything, everybody, whoever all nonsense people are. And his devotees is there to protect them. Of course, he's not going to protect the bodies of his devotees. They have to be destroyed, but the consciousness will be protected. So what this Yadukul boys did. Kridantastan upavrajya kumara yadunandana upasangagriya paprachur avinita vinitavat te veshitva srivesha sambam jambavati sutam esha prichati vo vipra antar vatnyasite kshana prashtam vilajjati saksha prabruta mogdharshana prasoshayanti putra kama kim svit sanjanishati. To that holy place, the young boys of the Yadu dynasty had brought Samba, son of Jambati, dressed in women's garb. Playfully approaching the great sages gathered there, the boys grabbed hold of the sages' feet and impudently asked them with feigned humility, feigned means a fake humility. Oh, learned Brahmins, this black-eyed pregnant woman has something to ask you. She is too embarrassed to inquire for herself. She is just about to give birth and is very desirous of having a son. Since all of you are great sages with infallible vision, please tell us whether her child will be a boy or a girl. Now, can we believe Samba and other boys doing this kind of game, playing this kind of game with the sages, if it was not orchestrated by Krishna? They always respected the Brahmins, always served the Brahmins, but now they came up with this game. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has made the following comment. The impudent behavior of the young Yadus towards the sages headed by Narad, who were all Brahmins and devotees of the Lord, was a display of deviation from the path of Lord Krishna. Similarly, although the Prakrit Sahajas think of themselves as intimate associates of Krishna, the supremely merciful Lord's determination is perfectly correct in working to finish such false devotees. Such impostors actually never accept real service to Krishna. The Yadu Kumara's deception is termed seemingly humble. So they feigned the humility, meaning that in fact they were anything but humble. Therefore, the ridiculing of Vaishnavas by the Lord's family resulted in a great offense against the devotees of the Lord. So they ended up committing a great offense. They're faking personality also. Some are dressed up as a woman and as a pregnant woman, and they are asking whether this pregnant lady is going to have a boy or a girl, whether she will give birth to a boy or a girl. And of course, going to these sages, look at all the sages. Vishwamitra, Durvasa, Angira, Asit, Kanvarishi, Naradji himself is there. And this is kind of question they're asking. A similar incident occurred during the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when his own mother offended Sri Advaita Acharya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally rectified this offense against a great Vaishnava, and thus the Lord showed his magnanimity. Lord Krishna's pastime of destroying the Yadu dynasty is also a demonstration of his mercy to his devotees. Now, believing the Brahmins, Vaishnavas and Rishis to be foolishly lacking knowledge in material affairs of sense gratification, the Yadu Kumars dressed as Samba, the son of Jamvati, as a woman and tried to mock the saintly assembly. And they had just completed a yajna at the house of Vasudeva, their grandfather. And these boys are mocking the great personalities. Lord Krishna wanted to teach that such an offense committed against great devotees by his associate Samba would be the cause of Yadu dynasty's destruction, all as part of his Leela. Of course, it is Leela, but also it gives us a teaching that we should not commit such nonsense activities. offenses against great devotees of the Lord, or against any devotee of the Lord, in fact. So they are trying to, these boys are trying to check whether these great sages, they know anything material or not. So some places it is said that they hid in this, because they dressed up Samba as a pregnant lady, and they really dressed it up. It wasn't like just put a sari around and put some makeup, just like in the plays we do. No, they really dressed him up, and he really looked like a woman. And what they did, some places it is said, what they did, they hid a piece of iron, a moshul. Moshul means that piece of iron that is used to crush the spices. And some places it is said they just had some either clothes under his sari, so he would look like a pregnant lady. And when sages cursed, a moshul fell down. But whichever way, whether the moshul was kept by the boys or the moshul came out, so they were there asking the sages whether it's a boy or a girl. Now, it was a trick question for the sages. And moreover, the sages and everybody, they are under the Yog Maya of Krishna. So they just went along and played along. Whatever Yog Maya made them do or say, they did it. But at the same time, it was an offense. And we are supposed to avoid any offenses. In modern times, such misbehavior has also manifested itself within the Gaudiya Vaishnava community. Unauthorized persons have initiated the process of deceitfully bestowing a woman's dress on their followers. This process is to be counted as a variety of aparadh or offense against Krishna. Such an attempt to cheapen and ridicule devotion service to Krishna is certainly caused by envy towards the real Vaishnavas, who are faithfully engaged in devotional service according to the rules and regulations of the Vedic literature. So in modern days also, this kind of behavior is going on, and they are called Sakhi Beki or Sahajyas. There are 13 different kinds of up sampradaya. Means they don't really follow the rules and regulations of sampradaya, but they try to pose themselves as Vaishnavas. And what they do is they dress up, men dress up like gopis and start behaving and acting like gopis or start dancing like gopis. But that's a thing, just by putting on a woman's dress or a gopi dress, one doesn't become a gopi. Gopis don't mean just dancing around in Ras Leela. That was the ultimate perfection of their devotion service. Ras Leela with Krishna. But the gopis are not just Ras Leela. Their devotion, their surrender, their dedication to please Krishna in every way possible, even if it means going against their family members, going against their husbands, going against their fathers. If it means that, they were ready to do it. That's gopi. These days also, of course, where ladies should wear nice clothes, whatever ladies' clothes. But if some lady wears gopis, that skirt and all the clothes, and they think I'm gopi, well, the clothes don't make one gopi. That mood of service, that makes one a gopi. And we have read about the gopis in 10th canto, different chapters. So this is completely unauthorized, completely. Thus Rupa Goswami has said, Shruti Smriti Purana Adi Pancharatra Vidimina Ekantiki Harera Bhakti Rutpateva Kalpate. If one wants to demonstrate his great devotion to the Supreme Lord, but his process of devotion service violates the standard rules of revealed scriptures such as Shruti, Smriti, Puranas, and Narad Pancharatra, then his alleged love of Godhead will simply disturb society by misleading people from the auspicious path of spiritual advancement. So we have to follow Shruti, Smriti, Purana, the Pancharatra. Otherwise, we cannot just make up our own rules of devotional service and think you're making progress, but this will be only, it will only create disturbance in the society. And it will send a wrong message to people in general. And this is what happened with all these 13 Sampradaya after Mahaprabhu left, 6 Goswamis left, all the great acharyas came, tried to establish, and they left. And when Bhakti Vinod Thakur was there, these 13 Sampradaya, they were so prominent that general people thought, this is it, this is what Gaudiya Vaishnavism is, because they didn't get the real knowledge about Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And they would look at all these so-called devotees and definitely develop a wrong picture, a negative picture of what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings are. And Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and he saw all this. And he was angry, and he was sad at the same time. He tried to look for a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita that would give the real message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. But it took him 2 years to find a copy, an authentic copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. 2 years. Nowadays, we just go to temple, or we can order it online. We can read it online. But Bhakti Vinod Thakur took him 2 years to get a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And when he read that, then he understood what exactly Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is preaching. And then he took up the mission of preaching, establishing Mahaprabhu's mission again. And when he found it very difficult, he prayed to Lord Jagannath when he was in Puri to give me your messenger, a ray of Vishnu, who can come and help me in this mission of re-establishing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings properly. And that is how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was born in Jagannath Puri. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, very, very powerful preacher. He was called Simha Guru. And he established Gaudiya Maths, and he just completely smashed all this nonsense, so-called philosophies of which were going on in the name of Vaishnavism. He established, even at that time, during the time of British government in India, 64 mathas all over India. He established. And he sent his disciples to London to preach by giving them financial assistance from India at that time. Can you even believe that? When Britishers were ruling, how much money he could have had, but he was financially supporting them. And then came Srila Prabhupada. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj gave him the order. In fact, thinking about that, it was 100 years ago. It was in 1922 that he gave the order to Srila Prabhupada, to go to the West and preach and the message of Mahaprabhu in English language 100 years ago. It took Prabhupada 43 years to come to the West. He came in 1965, he started, and 66 he established ISKCON, but it was 100 years ago. Wow. When we read in the books, it doesn't click, it doesn't register. It was 100 years ago. Wow. Okay, to do what? To re-establish the proper teachings. And that is why study of Prabhupada's books is very, very important. Okay, coming back to the story. The taking of a woman's clothing by a man in Krishna Leela was intended to point out this fact. Such an act amounts to cheating and ridicule of the devotees of Krishna. Samba is a personal associate of the Lord, but acting as a harbinger of the future misfortune to be created in Kali Yuga by bogus followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Samba displayed this didactic pastime to help the living entities be blessed on the correct path of devotional service. So we got to be careful. The boys said to the sages, O rishis, O Brahmins, O Narad, and other great personalities, can you tell us whether it will be a son or a daughter that will be born from this pregnant woman's womb? By addressing pure Vaishnavas in this way, they anticipated the fraudulent sampradayas of the modern age in the practice of Sakhi Bheka, or dressing men as female associates of the gopis. This unauthorized activity constitutes contempt and mockery of the pure devotees of the Lord. The pure devotees of the Lord will never do that. We never read anywhere Bhakti Vinod Thakur dressed up like that, or Bhakti Siddhant Maharaj, or Srila Prabhupada. Gopi Bhav is very, very high, very, very high sentiment. Not at all possible for any ordinary person to come up to that. Many births it will take. But to imitate that, well, that won't take more than 5 minutes. But that's not the right way. Many false yogis, imagining they are distributing first-class devotion on the liberated platform, attempt to award the status of pure devotee to candidates totally ignorant of the transcendental tastes of Madhura Rati, or the Lord's conjugal love in the spiritual world. Even though they know that the general populace is unfit to imitate the liberated associates of the Lord, they artificially decorate ordinary persons with the ornaments of spiritual perfection, such as tears, a melted heart, and the standing on end of the bodily hairs. Thus, these bogus yogis introduce a process that misleads the world. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood that the great misfortune caused by such false yogis or yogis was impossible to forestall in the Kali Yuga, he infected them with insane desires for material objects of lust, so that ordinary persons can easily identify such false yogis as deviated from the path of pure devotional service. So it's hard to see. Because many times these yogis or so-called devotees, they show these, as it is written, ornaments of spiritual perfection, such as tears, melted heart, and just standing on the end of the bodily hairs. These are Ashta Satvik Vikar, 8 Satvik, not Tamasic, Satvik, transformations in the body. And these 8 Satvik and transformations happen when one is tasting the highest the highest emotions of devotion service. This is the beginning stages of prema. This is called bhav. And of course, those who are in higher stages, they will definitely be tasting that and revealing that. But bhav, as we have studied in different places by Prabhupada, there are stages of bhakti. Shraddha starts with Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha means fixed of faith, then Ruchi, Asakti, then Bhav, then Prema. We are so much in the beginning stages of Shraddha and then Sadhu Sangha and hardly doing any Bhajan Kriya. How can we imitate those stages of Bhav Bhakti? So yes, only by imitation we can think we have. And then actually it's not called Bhav. If we are not, the Anartha Nivritti hasn't happened, the cleansing of all the unwanted material desires hasn't happened. We think we are at the stage of Bhav, it's not Bhav, it's only Bhavukta. Nothing else. Sentimentalism, emotions, that's it. Not Bhav. Gopi Bhav is there. Yashoda Bhav is there. We don't have Bhav. We have only a Bhav. That's all. The process is given, yes, by mercy of Prabhupada, by mercy of Mahaprabhu. If we follow the process properly, we can get. It's not impossible. But we have to see our progress. We have to see our stage, what stage we are at. So this is what this pastime, when these boys they try to make a mockery or just cheat the sages, this is what happens. And we have to understand, we are doing that also, whether we are hiding this Moshe Leela and pretending to be pregnant women, or we are just showing off, whether in front of the Lord or the devotee. Oh, I'm such a pure devotee. And this is what they, in the purport is said, attempt to avoid the status of pure devotee, in quotations, to candidates, fully ignorant. Just love to call it, oh, he's a pure devotee, she's a pure devotee. We are not. You're nowhere there being a pure devotee. We are struggling. Everybody of us, all of us are struggling. Struggling even to somehow complete our 16 rounds, but to speak of any sentiments or bhav, anything else. Struggling, but yes, we all are making progress. Slowly, slowly, slowly. We are making progress, no doubt. But we are struggling. The mockery of the Brahmins and Vaishnavas by the young boys of the Yadu dynasty who dress Sama in women's garb, and the resultant destruction of the Yadu dynasty conclusively demonstrate the uselessness of the Sahaja Sampradayas. Srila Jiva Goswami has confirmed that the lack of humility shown by the sons of the Yadu dynasty was an arrangement by the Lord himself. In other words, the members of the Yadu dynasty are ultimately associates of Lord Krishna, and to facilitate the instructive pastimes of the Lord, they acted in apparently unethical ways. Yes, it was arranged by the Lord. Yog Maya worked on them, but we have to learn the lesson. That's all. That's all it's for us. We are not under Yog Maya, we're completely under Mahamaya. So we have to learn that we cannot commit offenses. We should not be committing offenses. Okay, I guess I can stop here. See anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Ram.
Hare Krishna.